Have you ever asked a question simply for the sake of? Have you ever looked at a microscope and seen math, done that math, and thought, 3? Have you ever looked at a book and thought, Have you ever peed to find something out? Have you ever looked inside yourself and thought, guts? If your answers to these questions were no, or yes, or sure I guess, or maybe, or no for the other ones, and yes for the ones you said no to, or okay, or sup, perhaps you and I should become a listener and the guy doing the speaking about it to you, which is to say, hello from podcast. Perhaps you are ready to explore these bewilderments, these scientifics, these... Yes.
Hi, welcome to the Small Beans program, Bewilderments and Scientifics. This podcast series is an ongoing conversation with the prolific and brilliant Professor Scott Bugg, Doctor of Wonder at Oxtonshire upon Woodsbubbly, currently teaching all of it, just everything, at the University of Swindee at the Woodsbubbly campus. I am your host, Abe Epperson. I have no scientific degree, but have long been in love with physics, biology, and the scientific method. I only hope to act on behalf of all of us as an intermediate, choosing topics and asking questions we all hope to understand more fully. And to enlighten us, I'd like to introduce the Professor Scott Bugg.
Hello. I'm Professor of Scientifics at the Runtle Collegiate Center of Academies, Professor of Mathlings at the University of Jail, and Doctor of Teaching at the Real Good School. My full name is Scotrianus Hello Bugg, though you may call me, whatever.
Today's topic is sound, which I think is kind of suiting for our first episode, as we're coming to you, the audience, from the wonder of sound. Now, forgive me if I get anything wrong, or feel free to interrupt, Professor.
Yes, of course.
As I understand it, sound cannot exist in a vacuum, as it needs a medium to travel through. Air, of course, being the one we're the most familiar with. But it technically travels through any matter, liquid, gas, or solid. I'd like you, my first question, I guess, is to discuss kind of how sound forms and what physical interactions are fundamentally at its source.
Magnificent question. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
See, the beautiful, the wondrous, the confusing thing about sound is that more than anything, it is heard. But what is hearing? Well, the Mesopotamians called it look noise. We, of course, now know that was just a bunch of really accurate terms. You may know it better as light but not. I prefer look noise, of course. The Americans call it hubbubbery, though in Detroit it's referred to as sound. The delicate nature of sound is perhaps its most glorious. Sounds are formed by the silks from the smallest thing known to man, spiders. And those little spideys are made of worms. Now, they weave the silk from their, pardon my language, behinds into intricate and fascinating soundscapes. It's what you hear when the rain falls, when a baby laughs, when a different baby laughs differently, or simply when the wind blows. These, of course, are merely 4 of the currently 12 documented sounds in existence. Now, that number 12 is quite interesting, isn't it? Now, will it go up one day? Current models say, oh boy, hope so. Will it go down another day? I don't even want to think about it. But 12 is significant because it's also the number of tiny little wee spiders needed to make one strand of silk. These spideys do a fun little dance that modern science is just really into. We love the dance. And then, after what seems like an amount of time, a strand of silk is formed. This silk, it twists, it stretches, it remains still, and yet it travels through air, otherwise known as a vacuum. You got that one quite wrong, young lad. Now, once in the air, or liquid, or solid, all types of vacuums, this silk shoots all the way up to every creature on the planet's ear, and using a form of telepathy, or telepathy, as they say in Detroit, combined with good guessing, receives a message from the spideys, and the silk finally whispers, "Hey, our brains interpret this hey to be whatever the sound was, be it rain falling, a baby laughing, a different baby laughing, etc. Now, how our brains transform the hey into those sounds is quite fascinating as well, but perhaps better for another time. This time, the transformation happens via electricity. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for preparing that, Professor. I'm full of questions. I want to talk more about the strands of silk that are made into tiny little wee spiders.
Yes.
You say they do a fun dance that we're all into, but what happens when the dance they do isn't fun to us anymore?
Starting off pretty seriously off the bat, okay? No, it's the scientifics are a very serious business, so I understand. Now, obviously we do love the dance, okay? I don't want to besmirch the dance. We love the dance. Sometimes, as you've noted, it cannot be very fun. This is deafening. Have you heard of a sensory deprivation chamber?
Yeah. It's where they put you like in a tank of like I believe water or something like that, and they just limit all of your senses,
exactly.
right?
Yes, they put you in a vacuum like water, or a vacuum like air, oxygen, things like that, and you cannot hear, you cannot see, you cannot feel, you cannot think, you cannot sing. In your heart you can, but not out loud, which is the saddest moment of them all. Now, these chambers are run on when the dance gets not very fun. So, in nature...
How does that work exactly?
Well, so you're sitting there, you're watching the dance, and the dance creates the silk from, again, I don't know how crude we're going to be on this.
They're behinds.
Thank you very much.
It's fine.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Okay.
We don't have to bleep on this podcast.
I'm just thankful I got through saying that without giggling like a little schoolboy.
Yeah, well, this is a podcast. This isn't like TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not on WQFM, doing our top 10 countdowns of the Shake Your Butt song.
I do love your countdowns, though.
Oh, of course. Well, we'll get to those later. I will be sharing my playlists later if anyone is interested in that. Mm-hmm. But so these sounds are not. That's the thing, isn't it? In nature, let's say you're walking through a forest and you think to yourself, if a tree falls here, does it make a sound?
Right. I was going to ask that later. Yeah. Could you go into that?
Well, so they're like all things ever, these are related. Okay. So you are in the forest and you're walking along, and you hear the crunchy crunch of the leaves beneath your feetsy feet. Now that sound, of course, is the fun little dance the spideys are doing, spooling the silk together, sending it to your ears. Yeah. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah. Now...
Right. Okay.
Right. But when the tree falls, though, and let's say, in this case, you do not hear the tree fall, right? Is it because you weren't there? Is it because you were the only one there? Is it because nothing is around? No, it's because the spideys were there, and they were a bit lonely, feeling a bit sad, and so the dance got a little less fun, yeah?
Oh.
They dance... when they're around others. That gives them the energy, or electricity as we like to call it, that fuels the dancing. Yeah?
So their loneliness, the little wee spiders and their loneliness is why it may not be fun to us anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's no longer fun to us because they're no longer having fun, because they feel lonely, which is why we take these spideys, made of the little worms, we put them in their own little chamber, and we put mirrors there. Yeah, so they think, oh, well, there are only spiders here in this room, and that makes them sad. They don't know that anyone's in the deprivation chamber. They don't know anything beyond this mirrored room of too many spideys. And so they dance a bit sadly. And then you don't hear anything. The sounds are gone.
So let's get on the other side of the spectrum. What makes music so much fun to dance to? And also, do you know, when was music invented?
A common misconception is that music itself is sound. Now,
Okay.
it makes perfect sense because in a sense we do hear it, yeah. Something gets the bones going. They get a little jiggly, yeah. I'm doing it right now. I'm jiggling my legs a little bit because I'm thinking about dancing. I'm thinking about music. But this music we think we hear, it's not actually sound. What it is, it's vibrations made elsewhere. It's not the Spidey silk. It's vibrations, yeah. So, if let's say, for example, I've got a single string, yeah, wrapped a wire, a coil, if you will. So I take this, and this is what they call a guitar string, yeah. You pull it, and it's coiled around, yeah. We know, and when you flick it, as you know, you see your slashes, yeah. Your Claptons, as it were. They take the fingies and they flick it, you know. And so you flick,
and that creates vibrations.
Yeah, so you flick the string and you'll notice it moves. Yeah, that creates vibrations. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it happening in real time if you flick it hard enough. Yeah, so. You pull that, and what that does, it creates electricity. Like I said, it's a coil, it's a wire that you're really pulling. You're pulling the wire together, you're flicking it, and you're sending from your finger, because we're all energy, we're all light, we're all made of the same bits, we're all made of the same stuffs, yeah? So you flick, you send a little bit of, a little juice, as it were, a little electricity into the string, and it causes it to vibrate. Now that vibration intensifies, it heats up, and it sends light out. The light goes into your eyeballs.
So you're saying that we see music?
We see music every day of our lives, but the way our brains are wired, the way everything is wired inside our skulls, inside our guts and stuff, you know, it's all mismatched on purpose. It's all kind of wobbly, kind of just like this goes there, doesn't need to go there, but it does anyway. And then we figure it out subconsciously. Yeah, when we sleep, we sort of work it out. Like, well, okay, tomorrow I know that this little wire here inside my brain that goes from my guts down to my toe, and then from the toe to the stomach, and then the stomach, you know, to my ears. All these sort of mismatched little cross wires. You figure it out, so you change the rules, and then the next day you're like, oh, now I understand.
So we see sound, music, vibrations.
We see, no. We see,
and then once we see them later, we realize that it's music. Later, after we kind of think about it and like internalize it, is that what you're saying? Like we don't know music is happening. We like figure it out later.
We figure, yes. So I guess everything is relative, right? So we figure it out later, but to us, later is like that moment right there, yeah. Or if you prefer, that moment right there. Either of those would be good examples. So to us, it's instant. You're going to a club, you know. I'm a big proponent of clubbing. I don't do the clubbing, but I think that we are all connected and we should all celebrate that pretty regularly. Yeah. And so you go to the club and you hear the music start pumping, yeah. But what goes along with the music that you hear?
I don't know.
It's the flashing lights in the floor. It's the flashing lights in the ceiling. Yeah. It's the flashing at you. That's where the music is coming from. Yeah.
Yes.
So you got the person. You got the DJ on stage. Yeah. He's flicking his strings, and that sends the light into the ceiling. You, in a split second, interpret it to be whatever song you feel like. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Okay, this is great. You're doing my segues for me. Because we've all heard about the Doppler Effect, right? Which is the sound of, for example, like an approaching train will pitch shift as it approaches, and then it gets more distant, you know. So there's kind of a famed opponent of sound design. I'm sure you know who he is. Professor Quigley Farnsworth. You familiar with the professor?
I'm very familiar,
so
yes.
He's famous for his everything is in the past theory. He argues that the longer distances are just farther away in time. So the reason that the pitch shift occurs is that everything is in the past. So do you find any credibility to that theory? Is it talking about the same kind of thing? Like, what are your thoughts?
I don't take well to insulting other people's work or denying, what they've done. So I do want to appreciate all the work that Farnsworth, Mr. Quigley, we call him Quig. We are friendly.
Quig.
If he's listening, hello Quig, how you doing? I know for a fact that his theory is bunk, and he should be ashamed of himself as well. Everything is not in the past. Everything is not in the future. Everything is not in the now. Those terms are meaningless. But our brains have been trained through, billions and billions and trillions 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 of years of evolution to just sort of like be like, yeah, get out of there, I don't need you right now. Forget you. Sound, forget you thing over there. So we know what is important subconsciously. We know what is important to look at, what is important to see / hear, all the look noises that we need. We've been trained to focus on those things. So as I mentioned to you, you can hear my past noises as I'm saying my present noises. And again, the word past is sort of not necessarily the right word, but to help you understand. So you right now, you're hearing thousands and thousands of my words at the same time, but only when you think about it, because you've been trained to the point where now, if you forget about it, you're like, get out of there, shoo there, shoo away. Now you're just hearing what I'm saying right now, which was, now you're just hearing what I'm saying right now,
just right now,
just right now,
I think it's interesting you pointed out specifically as sounds, rain falling, a baby laughing, and a different baby laughing. You mentioned that there are 12 sounds, but you only named a few so far in this podcast. Are we allowed to discuss other sounds?
Of course. I mean, there's nothing off limits in the world of science, in the world of scientifics, in the world of the many bewilderments and wonderosities that exist within those fields, of course.
Right.
So we can discuss some of the other sounds. I will say that unfortunately, we do not know all 12.
We don't know all 12.
We don't know all 12.
Well, sorry, continue.
Well, no, I mean it's fine. It's fine. I don't want to overload you.
No. I'm perfectly loaded.
The 4 I mentioned, of course, if you're always perfectly loaded. That's why I agreed to be on this podcast, because you are constantly, completely ready and loaded. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. My like kind of second question, because that answers my question, Professor. Is there? You mentioned those sounds: rain falling, baby laughing, different baby laughing. Is there something special about special sounds? Like, what makes it special? Like what makes it special?
So, I mean, I would say, and this, some things are subjective, right? We have our perceptions of the world, and our perceptions of the world are limited to our experiences and our senses. And as I think we've already sort of made clear, our senses are very limited. So we have our limited perceptions and our senses, and we build the world around us. And so my view might be slightly different, although we do our best to nail down as much concrete facts about the world that we can. We write them down in books. We throw those books at people and we say, read this fact. Yes. I chose those 4 sounds of the 12 that exist, of the only 8 that we know. I think they're the sweetest. They're cute. I like me the cute sounds. Yeah,
that's nice. That's really nice. Is thinking a form of hearing, though? Like right now I can hear myself ask this question, but I'm also thinking quite a bit actually while I'm saying this, and I can hear that too. Is that why my thoughts are sad?
This is such a good question. Thank you so much for bringing this up, because technically, yes, your thoughts are a bit sad. But partly because of the Spidey's dance around you is probably just a wee bit sad. But we perceive things, like, as I said, differently, So when you're out dancing in the club, you might notice, well, that person's not a very good dancer. Actually, they're an amazing dancer, but they hear a different song. okay?
Wow.
We are all hearing different musics at different times at the same time.
It's kind of like, wow, it's kind of like, people say, like, what if my version of red is like the same, your version of red?
Yes.
Like, we all talk about that all the time.
Yes, exactly. Your version of twist and shout is different from my version of twist and shout.
Well, that is some fascinating stuff.
It's very interesting.
Thank you for explaining that all to me. This is kind of, so as a surprise, I mean, you kind of knew it, so this is not really a surprise for you, but this is kind of a segue to our next segment where we have a professor discuss today's topic with another leader in the field. And I'd like to ring them up now, and then we'll come back when we have him.
Perfect.
So yeah, thank you so much, Scott Bug, for explaining
You're
all
welcome.
that.
I would like to add real quick. I just wanted to compliment your brilliant mind. It's inquisitive, it's curious, and it's so sharp. Aside from some of the bad questions, I will say,
right.
But what you are describing, your thoughts, that is the current theory for what the ninth sound is.
Oh. Right.
We have not proven it.
Thinking as a form of hearing?
Yes, there is some evidence to show that. So, congratulations, just by your mere curiosity, you have hypothesized what so many sound scientists have been working on for literally millennia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you.
You don't know how much that means. I'm going to call up our next guest, and we're going to have a conversation.
Excellent.
Okay, we're back. Today, we have the pleasure of calling up General erstwhile MacTavish, a scientist adventurer who uses archaeology and asking around to find out about and catalog extinct and endangered sounds. At the University of Scottish Soundings and Catalogues, he is founder and curator of a vast database of sounds that once existed but are heard no more. His best sounds have been quoted in over 3,000 scientific works, and he has a Dubner Prize in Vocational Sound. He's this year's runner-up for the Silence Premium and has toured his sonic lectures at the Louvre, the Met, and Lollapalooza. Welcome, General MacTavish.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. I should explain, first of all, you're probably hearing my past sounds due to the Doppler Effect, but I believe we can still converse.
Of course, always. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to discuss all of this with you.
It's an honor. Speaking of sounds and quirks of sounds, I've always thought it's fascinating how you and I, Doctor, are both Scottish, yet we sound nothing alike.
One of the many mysteries of sound I think about literally every other hour of every day.
Every other hour, right? I think about this shit constantly, yes. Wonderful to be here. As you said, I'm an adventurer, gentleman adventurer, and an archivist of exotic look noises, or as you might call them, sounds. And I do so in the interest of one day hopefully discovering a sound that is not merely a remix of the 12 cardinal sounds. I'm sure the good professor has explained this to you already.
Yes, he has.
Yes, of course.
Great. Fucking great.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, great.
Saves me some time. Can we swear on this thing?
Yes,
you bet your behind.
All right. Well, let's not go crazy.
Sorry,
my mother had a behind, sir, but understood.
Apologies to your mother.
I just want to field the question to you, General, and then we'll kind of talk about wherever that leads. So, your expertise is specifically on kind of the origins of sound, like our earliest sounds that we have recorded. Can you talk about that at all? You know, like if you want to talk about it in the last few decades, if you want to start at the beginning, however you want to kind of answer that question.
I can't talk about it at all. No, that would be a pretty crappy podcast, wouldn't it?
Would.
Well, you see, my lad, all sounds ultimately originate from the Big Bang. Every sound is but an echo of the Big Bang. The sounds all traverse through a vacuum, which means literally anything, any solid liquid gas, plasma, jello. I find You can capture the essence of a sound if the sound transpired right next to gelatin that is in the midst of congealment. This is one of the ripest sources of ancient sounds. People who, or objects, or animals, or vacua that created interesting sounds near congealing gelatin. I find these gelatins and crack them open to extract the exotic sounds inside.
Fascinating.
That's but one method. Other things can hold on to sounds for later disbursement by adventurers such as myself. Are you familiar with shells?
Yeah, I believe so, but I'm
just my boy.
Seashells. Yeah.
Have you ever put a shell to your ear and heard the ocean inside?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's... The ocean is inside the shell. There's a very small ocean in there.
Wow.
And the people who live on the beachfront area, they know a lot about sound. So sometimes I'll ask around. Did you mention I find things out by asking around? Sometimes I'll ask around and I'll find out that way.
One of the most important aspects of the scientific method,
have you seen Demolition Man? The science documentary.
I know I have.
We show it in every elementary school here. I've been teaching in America for quite a few years now. We do show it every year to every class.
There's a famous seashell scene in that film, largely misunderstood. You see, people always think that with the seashells, he was going to wipe his, if you pardon my language, behind. But actually, the Demolition Man was going to capture the sounds emanating from his bum using the shells. In the future, the intention is to archive sounds proactively so that we won't lose so many classic, wonderful sounds which are already gone. For example, the sound of a tree falling in the woods when no one's around. Mm-hmm. You can't get that sound anymore. That sound's gone.
It's gone. It's tragic. That's why when you see those on the beach collecting these shells, those are all scientists hard at work trying to collect as many as possible. We use your idea of a laboratory, or a laboratory, as they say in Detroit. You might envision test tubes, beakers, things of that nature. These are all replicas of shells. We are trying to recreate these natural tools, but in a sterile environment. They're not quite as good as shells, but again, they're more sterile. They're safer to use in that setting.
That's right. The number of ear infections I deal with from listening to shells in the wild is truly staggering.
The number one cause of death among scientists.
That's right behind suicide, actually.
Yes, of course, but that is understood.
Of course. But these glass shells, these shell-like flasks, they do a decent job. I have to say, I'm old school, you know? I like to get out in the field and really, I'll be in like a trapped area, and I'll exchange one sound of equal vibratory power with another sound on a sound pedestal of some kind and recover that sound. I just think it's all about getting out in the field. Leave it to the brainiacs, or brainiacs, as you might say it if you're from Detroit, to get in the laboratory and parse out the existing sounds. I want to expand the periodic table of sounds. I want new sounds. I want to recover the sound of a Neanderthal saying the word Neanderthal. That's rare, I bet. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
Surely.
After all, what is an echo but a pale imitation of a sound once made? And that's not what I'm looking for. I want to live, damn it. I need to live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The real thing. I think this is an excellent demonstration of the value of all different fields of science. Yeah, as we've discussed, one main point of the scientific method is asking around. Now, I can ask around on my campuses that I work on, but it does not beat going out into the field, getting your hands dirty,
asking around.
Getting on a rickety bridge, falling down, grasping onto that rickety bridge, pulling yourself up with your strength, reaching out your hand, having somebody grab your hand, pulling you up, and then asking them something. about sounds. That is a real science work that I used to do a bit, when I was younger. Got a bit of a bad back these days, so I'm not necessarily out doing that kind of work.
Right.
But it's so valuable, and I honestly can't thank Professor MacTavish enough for doing it, for even these wild ideas of getting, unheard of sounds. You want to get all these new sounds. I mean, good luck. We are only up to 8 of 12 so far, but I do.
No, that's right.
Of course, I do.
Although, of course,
I
the
do
ninth
support
sound, things that you think in your head that you kind of think maybe am I hearing that? Is, of course, the proposed ninth sound. I wanted to mention while asking around, because I do welcome anyone with an interest in sound archival to, jump into the fray. It's not something you need a degree to do, although I have many. But when you're asking around, scientific skepticism is important. So it's not, the scientific process is not simply asking, did you hear that?
Of course
right?
not. Of course not.
It's saying, did you hear that? And then not believing the person,
Mm-hmm.
not believing their answer, doubting it.
Doubt is very important, yes.
Maybe wearing a robe or holding a notepad. But the important thing is you say it with a skeptical chip on it. Did you hear that, though? Did you? I don't know if I buy that.
Though?
Exactly.
That's
now
very
you
good.
sound like a scientist, boy.
That was very, very good. You could be a scientist if you wanted to, just based on that.
I didn't take nearly enough school. I went into art school.
You don't need school. Art is one of the sciences, and it's also very valuable.
I've heard that.
My generalship is from an art school. It's honorary. Yes, my generalship is actually a generalship of fine arts from the Army of Imagineers.
Yeah.
At the Build-A-Bear Workshop Symposium.
At the Build-A-Bear work. Oh, wow. Okay, so I gotta do my research
it's where I had my
before
internship.
Yeah, that's amazing, General.
It was.
You mentioned earlier, General, the searching for new sounds. Do you believe, theoretically at least, is there a 13th sound?
Well, as I said, all sounds ultimately are echoes and remixes of sounds that originated in the Big Bang. As you know, most sounds come from rubbing, vibrating, or smacking. Things can collide, things can rub, things can vibrate.
There's some twisting and pulling involved sometimes as well.
Look,
but yes.
damn it, Professor Scottbug.
Sorry,
We disagree on this point. Colleagues can have friendly disagreements, but this is not one of them. I think you're wrong, and I think it's amoral what you're saying and what you're teaching people.
Wow.
There is
couldn't
no
agree
twisting.
more with you.
Thank you, sir.
That
Good
you
man.
are wrong about this, and you couldn't be more wrong. And it is amoral what you are doing, sir.
I see you. It's a reverse agreement.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I reverse disagree with myself that torsion is not a true sound. It does not originate sound. Torsion is merely the act of twisting something creates such wrinkles at the point of twistion that it expands surface area exponentially. What you're hearing are tiny little echoes. The sound is getting caught in the little valleys created by the torsion. Yet again, it's a smacking. It's a smacking
where did the point
disguised as
of
a
twisting
torsion.
come from? Where did it come? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's. We're not gonna solve the history of sound in a podcast.
Fair enough. That's true.
Yeah. So
Fair enough.
let me deflect this a little bit to
There
someone.
are several papers on both sides, and I will just leave it at that.
On both sides, exactly. On both sides. Let's.
Hey, and listen to this. Guess what this is? It's the sound of me twisting them. Oh, what's that? You don't hear anything. Exactly.
Twisting
exactly,
in,
my
twisting
friend.
Right,
in
you
the
can't-
wind, which is one of the 4 sounds I've already mentioned, okay?
Right,
Wind is a form of sliding, which is a subset of rubbing, and you know it.
Well, look, let's talk about someone we can all disagree with, which is this new branch of science. I believe it's called the sonic earth theory, made popular by Professor Quigley Farnsworth, who said that the first sounds, General, that were made well before your first sonic dating places them. What would you say to, Professor Quigley Farnsworth, or if he was here?
When does he say that they were made? When? I need to know when.
He if I am understanding the theory correctly, he's saying that they were made a lot sooner, and it wasn't actually the origin wasn't actually the Big Bang.
Listen, Sonny Jim, and I'm sorry to unleash the full force of my wrath on you, but you are but the messenger. But this is the primary reason I'm here today, to tell Professor Farnsworth to his face's ear, I have unleashed a special killing sound that will find you in a quiet moment and cause your heart to explode. Merely if the sound reaches your eardrum, it resonates at such a frequency. It's like how you can bring down a building with, resonance, architectural resonance, but it's specially designed to implode the heart of Professor Farnsworth.
I fully support this sound that you've sent. I want to say it's incredibly irresponsible of Professor Farnsworth to be mentioning this, and honestly, Mr. Epperson,
dangerous.
It is actually dangerous and irresponsible of you to have even brought it up. I do not think we should send the killing sound to you, but I am warning you.
I would prefer
Never
if we bleeped
again.
the last 4.5 minutes of the podcast.
I would support that.
Well, that's two professors threatening the life of a third.
A professor and a general, sir.
That's right.
A general. I apologize, General.
I think that third professor, that can be in quotes as well. All right, we're all familiar with Quigley's work.
This is fun. I have a question for both of you to get us off that topic. What do you think do you think is the most important sound in history?
The sound of a person falling in love for the first time.
Wow.
Sounds like this. Beautiful.
That's a beautiful sound.
It's for me. Can I give two? I've recalled a good one that I really like also. The sound of a judge killing a baby, but for a good reason. It's very rare. The why of it is important. The baby did something to deserve it. You can hear it. That's part of it. King Solomon came close. He didn't kill a baby for a good reason.
He didn't kill a baby.
And of course, people killing babies for bad reasons, that's a dime a dozen. But a baby who deserved it. Also, rave music, I think, is very good. Like the electronic music that kids play.
Yes.
It's
rave music, yeah.
And what is sound if not strings and flashing lights in the floor and ceiling? Professor Scott knows this.
Yeah. We talked about that a little earlier. It's fascinating.
The lights trigger your neurons in such a way that you interpret it as music. But it's just the DJ, man.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The beautiful
Who's
DJ,
the
man.
dog now, man?
You know, it's interesting they call them DJs. It's just now occurring to me. It's probably been obvious to you guys, but wow, as a layperson, a DJ spins, a spider spins a web.
Now
this is all designed, right? The words came from each other. Am I wrong about that?
I wouldn't say they came from each other. It's one of those amazing, magnificent sort of coincidentals, we call them, where.
It's serendipitous.
Yes, exactly.
Really.
Another. If we're gonna get really technical, yes, of course. Thank you, General. But these are two separate events. This language evolved separately, and it turns out, yes, they are very similar. They do mean similar things, but it was not on purpose. It's simply the way the universe works. Sometimes, when things happen, and another thing.
God, I'm sick of the little dance those wee spiders do. Is that just me? Can I say this? Is this too hard of a take? I'm tired of the dance, the little dance those wee spiders do.
This is an emerging opinion within the scientific community.
Everyone else seems to think it's fun. I don't think it's that fun.
It's a fun little dance, General.
It's become tedious. It's quotidian.
It doesn't
mundane
matter
to me.
That's fine.
I'm over
That's
it.
fine that it is mundane to you, but the spiders still clearly love it. They're having a fun time doing it. It's fun to watch them have the fun. I don't know how else a person can explain this to you. It's not about your feelings about it. It's about their feelings about it. And their feelings are, this is a fun little dance.
Fair enough. But, hey, kudos to you, host. By the way, it takes a lot of people a lot longer to figure out that DJs are actually giant spiders, and that's a fundamental rule of sound that I think you have to intuit for yourself. It's not something you can be taught in a school or a laboratory.
You're right. Well, honestly, you guys taught me it just by talking about it, but like I kind of had to get there myself. I guess I know what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
you can't learn. It's like learning a date. You're not going to learn that date and remember it. You're not going to learn that DJs are spiders and just remember it.
We are the two neurons, and you're the gap between them through which the arc of learning flows. Yes. You're the synapse, boy.
The vacuum.
You're the vacuum of goop.
You're quite literally the vacuum, and I'm storing sounds in you. Even as we speak, my past sounds are worming their way into you, and your flesh is absorbing them in such a way they could be extracted thousands of years from now by one of our descendants, an adventurer like myself, could
like
find
Jurassic Park.
Right, your desiccated remains, and ask around about, has anyone heard any sounds coming from this? There's a lump, this pile of bones, forgotten bones of a hated man. Has anyone heard any sounds from? And maybe they'll get interviewed on a podcast, you know?
Yeah, well, whatever they have in the future, you know.
Podcasts.
Right.
I'm going to assume podcasts.
There were podcasts thousands of years ago. It would be foolish to assume that there would be something other than podcasts 1,000 years from now.
Well, I've got to hope. I'm so dedicated to sound, I gouged out my eyes.
Yes.
I caulked my nose.
Yes.
And I can't feel. I forget how I did that. I think I severed something in my brain. Now I can't feel. So I'm all sound, baby. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you something. It's like a sensory deprivation tank. Are you familiar? It heightens your other. It heightens. Now all I am is a mouth with ears. And I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'll tell you the main thing. I can't see that stupid dance the little spiders do anymore.
They're still doing the dance, General. They're still doing the dance. You cannot avoid the dance.
And I understand it's fun to them. I understand that.
Okay.
And if I can be honest, I'm happy for them because they deserve it. But nevertheless, I'm glad I gouged my eyes out and I can't see them. It's made adventuring, I don't want to say easier, but I don't know if I'm injured, so I can just do things and go on adventures, you know? Unless I hear someone say, oh my God, his bone is jabbing out of his leg. I don't know what's going on, so it's fine.
Yes.
Right.
You've heightened your bravery, is what you've done. Increased bravery for your science.
It's sound and fury signifying my bravery. That's absolutely right.
This is something that I've noticed in reading your many books. I've started to realize that you kind of...
mean my mini books, right? My little tiny books? Yes, I like to create... I've published 4, not that many, little wee books. And I'll be honest...
Little wee books.
They were designed originally for the spiders, but the spiders had no interest. So I'm looking to market them to... little
Humans.
People who enjoy to read.
Little people. Okay. Well,
people with small eyes on the small end of the eye spectrum.
I used a microscope. And
or you can use a microscope or glasses. Or you can look, you know what you can do for the cheap version? Look through binoculars backwards.
Oh, I didn't even... Wow. That's way easier.
That's the easiest way to look inside yourself.
Yes. They're about sounds... There's a passage in your first book, General, called Grunts and Gruntels.
Yes, sure.
Where you specify the sounds made possibly by different, quote, grumbies at the beginning of the first grun spell, and their emphatic grumbles would be ostracized by the grun court. Their lives would be harsh, brutish, and without sound, end quote. Now, what you just espoused in this podcast is saying that, like, you're kind of fed up with the spiders. Is there any parallel here? Do you think we're living now on a repeat of this first grun spell? Do you think that there's lessons to be learned?
Well, obviously, these days, we live in what I'd call, by my standards, like a very soft society. You know, helicopter parents and the like. Our kids, everyone today, if you polled the children, of course they're going to say, oh, it's a shame. It's a shame what happened to the Grumbies during the last grunge spell. And I think a lot of that comes down to the Disney movie that made Grumbies look like the voice of the swamps, the embodiment of the swamps, and the natural is sort of like anthropomorphized. But let's be clear here. We needed to extract those sounds from the Grumbies. We needed them in order to understand. That's how we discovered 3 of the 4 sounds we've even nailed down with the screams of dying Grumbies. So I think it's ridiculous to shed a tear for the Grumbies. And let's not forget, Grumbies is just a euphemism for human children that we use to make ourselves feel better about it. And frankly, it worked. I feel fine about it.
Professor Scott Bug, do you feel that history's awful treatment of different Grumbies is warranted?
I couldn't have quite said it better than the General just now. I will try.
Great.
So what? It's about the science. We've learned the science. We've gained the science, and now that science belongs to us. There are still Grumbies, all right? We didn't get rid of them. We simply caused them great, immeasurable pain.
Right.
There is a pair of breeding Grumbies in the Detroit Zoo right now, so don't come crying to me about the Grumbies.
You can go look at a Grumbie if you want to right now. You can Google them. You can look them up. You can go to a zoo. You can point at them. You can toss your little snacks at them, and they'll gobble them up. The filthy, filthy Grumbies will gobble.
And you know what else
up.
you can do? You can go to bed resting assured that we know roughly 1/3 of the sounds that exist. That's amazing
that
to
is
me.
Quite
That's
something.
That's amazing.
Yes, exactly.
That's an achievement for all mankind.
I guess I never really thought about it that way.
But think about it this way, my lad. That means there's still 8 more sounds to hear.
8 more.
So there's many more Grumbies to punish.
I think characterizing it as punishing them, is missing the point.
I take issue with that.
I take
very
issue
much
with
so.
that, yes.
We should mistreat the Grumbies.
What are the organs and guts and bones and dirt and stuff of a Grumbie if not vacuum? Aren't
just
we all
collecting
just
vacuums,
vacuum
yes.
through which the sound must travel? Or what was even the point in the end, really?
Yeah, the ends justify the means.
I could have said it better myself, but I'll refrain because it's your show and I don't want to make you sound stupid.
Well, I am but a humble vacuum.
I will try to rephrase that.
What really irks me is that the internet has turned that Grumbie into a symbol of hate speech. I don't understand fully how that happened.
Overnight is disgusting.
Grumbie used to be a very cheerful character, and now some of the shit I've seen online is terrifying.
There was that meme. I didn't want to mention it, but now that you kind of alluded to it, General MacTavish, where you're in a hazmat suit
the spiders.
and you're petting tiny spiders with your microphone.
Right.
The spiders.
Yes, that meme.
It's not that flattering. It's probably not worth the time. But how do you deal with that kind of attention? Has this internet craze affected your work at all?
I mean, I try not to let it. Obviously, usually I'm asking around near dig sites. So you'd be surprised how few people know the meme in the jungles of the Amazon. But when I do return to civilization to accept awards, earn honorary doctorates and the like, I try to do field work and collect sounds I wouldn't normally be exposed to. So yes, I was rubbing my microphone against the spiders while they did their wee little dance. And no, that's not why I'm over it. It wasn't that. A lot of people speculate that's the reason that I decided I no longer had fun with the fun little dance, but that has nothing to do with it. I was simply trying to catalog the sound the wee spiders made when I rubbed my doctoral grade microphone against their wee little hairs.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you... I know you've said that before. It's just, I think
I've said it before. I'll say it again, but if you approach me on the street and you get mouthy about it, I'm going to punch you in the nose.
Just a smack.
Just the sound of a smack.
Yeah.
I'll release it from my satchel.
We call that the scientist's gesture.
That's right.
A quick smack in the mouth.
Right, yeah. I want to segue a little bit, and this is for both of you, so please stay on the line if you'd like to. General, we have some questions from Twitter. These are questions taken from the @Prof Scott Bug, ProfScottBug.
Still not verified, by the way.
It's still not verified, but that's this show's Twitter handle. We release questions every week or so before we record, and viewers like you and listeners like you can follow us and ask Mr. Scott Bug and guests what's...
Viewers of the Look Sounds.
The big questions featured during this one.
The look noise.
So I'll start with the first one. At Knees and Balls tweets, why does helium gas make me sound like a mouse? And is inhaling helium dangerous?
Well, it's really tiny, yeah? Mm-hmm. Helium is the smallest gas, yeah? Mm-hmm.
It's actually one of the smallest vacuums of all vacuums.
Also true, yeah. You take a tiny thing, you put it inside, you're going to be sounding like a little mouse, aren't you?
That's right, because the molecules in your lungs, which form the vacuum that allows the sound to escape, they're going to look at that helium molecule coming in, they're going to say, hey, that's pretty neat, that's new, that's fresh. And what is it? What's novel about it? It's small.
Like a mouse.
So it's a bit of a popularity contest within the makeup of your body.
They welcome it. They welcome the new little tiny little thing, and then they show it around. And some of them, they get a little bit scared, and they're like, they scream. They scream their tiny little noises, and those come out of your lungs.
When you open your mouth, what you're hearing is just little tiny screams of neighbors showing each other around the neighborhood that is your lungs. That's right. But see, much in the same way music is created, you hear it and then you retroactively decide that it was human speech. But you're actually just emitting the screams of a tiny little culture.
Yes, and your interpretation makes it make a bit more sense. I would say that inhaling helium is the opposite of dangerous. It's actually dangerous to not inhale helium at least once a week. That's sorry to Knees and Balls, but that's a silly question. We would learn this in primary school.
Next question, or tweet, I should say. At Big Nasty Science Guy asks, I'm a sound engineer and work in minus decibel environments. I sometimes hear my own heartbeat and stomach. How does this work?
Well, first of all, I'll say it's not supposed to work like that. You need to switch your ears to plus. Yeah.
Right. I could have taken that one.
I mean, for real.
You would think a sound engineer would know such a thing, but yeah, switch your ears to plus. Any tattoo shop or piercing parlor can do that for you. They have the tools needed to dig around in there and switch it to plus. But also, what you're hearing are your organs plotting escape. It's something organs do, and I know a lot of people, it concerns you, but I just let it slide. They don't have appendages. They can't move. They have very little power in the situation. If your stomach, believe me, your stomach needs you more than you need it. If I cut your stomach out and left it on the floor, it's not getting very far. So it's a lot of bark and bluster, but I don't think you need to worry too much. Just get your ears set right. You're a sound engineer, for God's sake.
For crying out loud, yes.
But no, it's just your organs want out. They consider living within you a form of chattel slavery. That's all. Nothing to be concerned about.
Fruitless endeavor, though, as we pointed out.
Yeah. Next tweet. At Bridget Tweets asks, sometimes sound is scary.
Sounds like an idiot, can I just say? I immediately hate this person. Go on.
Yeah. Sometimes sound is scary. Why?
You're a coward.
I think it speaks to your fundamental lack of bravery. Yeah, you're a coward.
No curiosity, no interest in scientifics, absolutely no interest in bewilderments, clearly.
It's people like Bridget Tweets that hold the field back. You ask, why is there no 13th sound? Bridget Tweets...
This is why.
Probably actively hiding it from us.
I would not be surprised if it turns out that this at Bridget Tweets person was funded by certain companies, which I could name, that should all be put on trial for crimes against humanity in order to create this fearful atmosphere around sounds. It's disgusting. I reject it.
They want you to fear sound.
Yes, they do.
They don't, because sound is the one thing they can't control. It's free. A sound spreads from its origin point in every direction through any vacuum.
You cannot stop the Big Bang from having happened. You cannot stop sounds from echoing from that Big Bang.
Even if you let's say you used a time machine and went back,
of course,
to before the Big Bang, to stop it, to end all the origin of all sounds, guess what, smart guy? You'd be making a time machine sound.
Oh.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly like that.
Most scientists agree that is the time machine sound.
We have several recordings of this. I feel like I've heard this recording in class before.
This is a known factor. This is known. And so you'd be making a sound. Even in your destruction of sound, there is sound. So just shut up.
Just shut up.
Just shut up.
Shut up.
All right, next tweet. @CumFan69 asks, I am deaf in one ear from a horrible car accident. I can hear fine from my other ear. Why 2 ears?
Why one horse is what I say. I ride a minimum of 3 horses at any time. At any time I'm horse riding, that is.
For redundancy? Or
a backup, a redundancy horse. And this is coming from a seasoned adventurer. If you're seeking sounds in some godforsaken desert, you don't want to get stuck there with less than 6 to 14 horses.
That's exactly it. When I go to my work on campus, I get out of my education pod. I have my pod of education coffee, and I go outside. I strap my feet onto 2 different hedgehogs, and on my back I put 2 other hedgehogs in case anything else happens, and then I'm glidden to work. It's just called maths.
Glidden?
Yes.
Glidden to work?
Yes, they glide me to work. I'm glidden.
Oh, you're glidden to work.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, the other thing about why 2 ears, and I do believe this is an important point, this creates, by interpreting different sounds as they enter your ears in different times and different spaces, your brain can actually assemble the information to create 3-dimensional localized sound. And this is actually true, I think. Not that that's weird. We're scientists, so the things we say are
everything we say
true.
is true, so I don't think
but if you only have the one ear, right, it's much like only having one eye. You're losing your depth perception. So you only hear flat sounds. So is where I might hear a whale song, a beautiful plaintive whale song, nice round timber. Someone with one ear would just hear the sound that a whale you had crushed into like with a steamroller.
Yes, exactly.
The sound it would make, which is more of a very flat, mundane tea kettle sound, like
a flat whale.
Not as deep. Yes, exactly. That's very good. Yes.
It lacks. If you're all about that bass, forget about it. Your life is ruined, essentially.
It lacks character.
You can't hear if your stomach is plotting to escape from your body from within or without, right? You could be hearing your stomach plotting with your heart to escape your body. Surprise! The camera wheels around. They're already out of your body. They're mocking you by giving you a false sense of security. Your stomach strangles you with your own aorta. This has happened to many of my students, colleagues, assistants. So, I'm not just making this up. This is real world stuff.
Yes, there are many dangers of particularly your field, but I think all scientific fields have this occasion when usually it's your stomach and your heart plotting to escape your body, and sometimes they do. We have an entire cemetery devoted to just this exact cause of death. It is tragic. It's important. I feel like we should put some links along when we post this podcast for places.
I'll find.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me know if. Yeah.
And if you do have one ear, for God's sake, set it to minus. It's literally the only situation where it's meant to be minus. Okay, you are the exception.
And I want to also say, on behalf of the pod, we're sorry to hear about your horrible car accident. All right, so the next tweet, this guy,
why not?
at Bill Nye tweets, "If there's sound, why can't I see it?"
This absolute freak will not leave me alone. He has asked me this question every single day of my entire life since I was a baby. This man, again, this freak, has been tweeting at me and tweeting at me. If there's sound, why can't I see it? He should know this. I've explained it to him. I am not going to dignify this with another response. Good day to this man.
Right, I think he's a troll.
He is absolutely a troll. He's been bothering me since I've been a baby. Trying to laugh. I've been trying to make just the sweetest laughter of a sound, and he will not let this go.
General, has there
Well,
been...
simply put, long story short, I mean, if someone's listening who really does not know the answer, it's simple in a nutshell. Your eyes are vacuums, but not that kind of vacuum.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
So,
He knows.
yes, if
He
this
knows.
freak is asking you this more than once, I think he's got a screw loose.
Couldn't agree more. I'm sorry.
He's in danger of one ear falling off if his ear screws loose.
Gonna have to set that other ear to minus if you ask me.
Well, I just want to say
I'm
thank you.
sorry. I would really like to kick this man's behind.
It's
Sorry. No,
trust.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'll stop asking questions from him or tweets from him.
If this username ever comes up again in the future, I would say this entire show's a dismal failure.
Yeah, I would say so too.
You
It was
can't let
me not
scum
doing my
like
job.
this through the filter, man. You've
Yeah.
got, and if I may just break character here to say, you've got Professor Scott Bug here. This is an honor, lad, Sonny Jim. You know?
Thank you, General.
You alone get to speak to... I have expertise only in the field of sound and the little spiders and the wee dance they do. Professor Scott Bug got me into science. He's the one who knows all of the bewilderments, and each scientific, each mathematics, each biology is. He knows the entire... So it's just it's a great honor to be here, and I hope...
He
and if you don't
inspires
live
all
up,
of us.
that's right.
to
It's an
be better.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he inspires all of us to be better. And thank you.
Absolutely.
You
Thank you
humble me.
both. I want to thank General MacTavish for joining us. General MacTavish, are there any comedians, websites, or shows you wish to plug for any reason whatsoever?
I love comedy. It's the only thing that gets me through the stupid wee dance that those guys are doing that I just hate. Is the humor of Brian Regan. So yes, I'll plug Brian Regan. It's the kind of stand-up that's competently assembled, but he's not gonna say cross words like behind. The worst you'll get is crummy or nuts. Fun for the whole family. Brian Regan.
Brian Regan. I'd like to thank our Twitter followers and all commenters throughout the internet. Your input is invaluable. This program was made in parts by the following organizations: PBS, NBC, CSNBC, Fox, NPR, Fox, FX, Showtime, HBO, MSNBC, CNN, Bravo, Sci-Fi, Turner Classic Movies, AMC, Showtime Fox, CBS, and affiliates. This broadcast was brought to you by YHNBC, ABA, ACAB, FBSC, JRNBC, GoDaddy, and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This concludes another episode of Bewilderments and Scientifics. I've been and continue to be Abe Epperson. Thank you again, professors, for joining us. Hi everyone, Abe again. This podcast was a collaboration between the creators of Some More News and Small Beans. If you like this podcast, please stop by patreon.com/smallbeans, where you will get new episodes early, as well as exclusive content provided by Small Beans. Thank you Cody Johnson, Katie Stoll, and every one of you. We love you!